This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Today is the 3rd of June, believe it or not, and it's getting hot here. We're in the hundreds. Welcome. We got a big room tonight, and a bunch of people have questions, so we'll move along fairly quickly as we can. But we may go over time just looking at the questions. And I have at least one thing that I've noticed that I would like to bring up. A quick thank you to the sponsors who are Janssen, Bayer, Blue Earth. Why do I always blank on this? Novartis, thank you very much. And there's two more. There's Telix, and who did I forget? Who was that? I thought we had a suggestion.
Medicine still.
What did you say, Dr. John?
Still Foundation Medicine.
Oh, Foundation Medicine. Yes, Foundation Medicine. But they didn't give us anywhere nearly as much money. That's probably why I forgot.
Did you get Johnson & Johnson?
I did get Johnson & Johnson. Oh, Myriad. I forgot. There you go, Myriad. Oh, Sonny will be after me. There you go. Give him. Thank you very much, Dr. Mark. Okay, we have 3 new gents, 2.5, but we'll call it 3. Because one of the new gents is not really new to me, but he's new to this group, so that makes him new. So we'll start with Steve Lodge because he was the first new man on. And Steve, since you've watched these recordings, you know we go through a quick questionnaire with you, and then just to get your background, and then bear with us, don't jump ahead of us so that we can get everything down, and then we'll give you time to talk. So I think you said that you lived in Washington State, is that right?
Correct, just north of Seattle.
Okay, north of Seattle. Okay. All right. And how old are you?
I'm 67.
Okay, and when were you first diagnosed?
Oh, in December of 2021.
Okay, and when you were diagnosed, what was your PSA level and your Gleason score?
PSA level, the highest was about 5.7. My Gleason score was 4.4 plus 5 for a 9, 12 of 12 cores. And at that point, metastatic, hormone sensitive, low volume prostate cancer. So de novo. I still have my prostate. I haven't had any chemo or radiation.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me hold you there. You're already raising issues for us. Where were you diagnosed and what institution are you being treated at?
Yeah, University of Washington, Fred Hutch Cancer Center.
Yeah. And who's your GU med on there?
Yeah, Yevzivsky. Good Russian name.
I don't know that one, Yedzisky. But they've had a bunch. I know you've had a fair amount of turnover there. So I'm not really surprised that we don't know. Is that a man or a woman?
It's a man.
Man. Okay, male. Okay. You don't by any chance know where
pronunciation? It's Todd Yevzevsky.
Todd Yedzevsky. And do you know where he trained?
I do not.
Okay, we'll look him up. We'll look him up. So they must have done a PSMA scan to find you a de novo metastatic. Where did they find the lesions?
They found lesions, um, femur, okay, in the prostate, the pelvic lymph nodes, the RP lymph nodes, the right proximal femur, and L3 vertebrae.
Okay.
And that PSMA was in February of 2022. Yeah.
2022?
Yeah, I was diagnosed, the original diagnosis was
Yeah.
December of 2021.
Oh, got it. Yes, that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
They
So,
did a CT and a bone scan before that. And yeah.
okay. So you've been on hormone therapy now for 2 years plus, 2.5
Yeah,
years. Are you still on full-blown hormone therapy?
I am. Yeah, started, they prepped me with the bicalsumide
Yeah.
and then, started hormone therapy, Lupron, and then in and then they almost immediately started me on abiraterone.
Okay. And where's that PSA level right now?
Yeah, it was undetectable through January, and at the end of January, the PSA went to 0.11 and has been stepping up. Most recently, April 23rd of a 0.22. So it's about a 3-month doubling rate.
Okay. We don't put a huge, well, I don't put a huge weight on the doubling time when we're at such low levels, but some people do. But I don't think it's as significant. Having a discussion with someone else in the room about that just recently, and I think there are other docs. Some of our favorite docs don't either, but what I do think is it probably signals that some type of change in treatment may be needed. Um,
Yeah, it was reclassified as hormone resistant.
yeah, yeah. That would make sense. Now, it's Hutch, so I'm sure I expect they did some testing, correct? Some genomic testing and maybe even some somatic testing. What have you
Well,
had done?
they did the genetic testing, which found no pathological mutations.
Yep.
They did not. They just recently ordered the genomic testing of the same samples, so I'll I'll hear about that soon.
Well, so in other words, they're using samples from 21, from 22 to do the somatic testing.
They are. They're actually from December of 2021.
Yeah. Do you? When was the last time you had scans?
Um, I've been having CT and bone scans every 6 months.
Okay, and what about PSMA scans?
I've only had the one in February of 2022.
Okay, did anything? Are your Mets still showing, or have they disappeared?
They've disappeared.
Okay. Well, if it were me right now, I would go back to Dr. Yazevsky and I would say I want a PSMA scan because I haven't been scanned in 2 years. And let's see if we can find a lymph node, and let's biopsy that lymph node, because your disease 2 years later may not be the same disease, or 3 years later may not be the same disease that it was. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, important to do somatic testing. But if it
Somatic,
remains,
okay. Is that the
yeah,
same as genomic?
kind of. I mean, it's what we're looking for is we're looking for the mutations that your body has made as opposed to the mutations you inherited.
Okay.
Okay. So the conversation with Dr. Yazevsky should be, wouldn't it be better to do a PSMA? Let's see if there's anything in the lymph nodes, particularly since my PSA is rising, because it may give you the opportunity to shoot the lymph nodes. Have you had any discussion about radiation to the prostate?
Um, Not since the initial diagnosis and plan in two plus years ago.
Yeah, well, I'd be talking to Dr. Yazevsky about what about radiating the primary as well.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, these are really important things that I don't want to say they're standard of care, but what we're seeing is they're being frequently implemented in the better centers. And you know, if you were seeing, I don't know, Evan Yu or what's his name, Mike Schweitzer, or one of those guys, they might be talking to you about it. So I think that, and I realize Evan Yu isn't seeing patients anymore, but Schweitzer is. So I think these are really important discussions for you to have, which
Yeah.
are
And,
what about
and the
radiating
law,
the primary? Number one, radiating the primary. Number
yeah,
two, can we find something more recent to do somatic testing on? Because they can come back to you and say, well, we don't see anything, but they don't see anything, and that's 2 years out of date.
right. And yeah, I was sort of surprised that they were using the old tissue. And when I first started with the group, they pushed this team approach. And, I haven't seen the team since that first initial plan was developed over 2 years ago. So, yeah, I'd asked about both. And I asked about a PSMA also. And, he, indicated that he thought they'd be doing it in the near future, but not now. They've scheduled me for Provenge treatment, which is
Yeah, we're familiar with it. We're very
okay.
familiar with it. So, I mean, that's a good thing. Okay, Provenge is controversial. I happen to be a fan of it, and especially at the time that you're getting it. So there's nothing wrong
Yeah,
in doing it. We've got other
yeah. With a
docs.
low PSA, from what I have some statistical background, so with a low PSA, it seems to be, uh, yeah, much more beneficial than later on.
So you know, we happen to like it, and the doctor who innovated it is on our advisory board. So you know, I definitely see that as a benefit. So let me throw it open. I think we've dug around for enough information. My first question to you, though, is there anything that you want the group to focus on?
No, I'm just wanting, thoughts and ideas. That's from the group. That's why I'm here.
Okay, and one other thing, do we have you signed up for a reminder for this group?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So you're in our database. And how did you hear about us?
Um, one of the, I was asking around a support group out of the Chicago area. One of the monitors there knew about the group, and I was
Okay. Okay. All right. So, guys, any other suggestions for Steve beyond getting a more recent sample for somatic testing and discussing radiating the primary?
I'm just voicing support for your recommendations, Rick. I have no other.
Thank you, Len. I'm glad you spoke up because maybe everyone else had gone to sleep. I'm not sure here. Anyone else? Anyone else want to? How are you managing on your hormone therapy? And do you have any questions on dealing with any of the side effects on the hormone therapy, Steve?
Well, the hormone therapy, I get the impression I'm going to be on it forever. And that's another one of my questions. Uh, you know, is it typical to go off the hormone therapy? I'm doing okay on it. Certainly drags me down, limits what I do. But, I got up snow skiing this year. I've been out scuba diving several times already this spring. So I'm staying relatively active and able to do things that I enjoy.
Which is great and good for you. I mean, hopefully you're exercising beyond just the scuba diving and the snow skiing. Really, really, really important, especially if you're going to be on for any long term. Got to be doing aerobic and weight training and resistance on a regular basis. But it sounds like you're managing it pretty well in terms of whether you'll ever come off. It's hard to tell. Um, you know, we might at some point. I guess we're going to address this, so we may as well address it now. Um, Last week with Dr. John, we had a really good conversation about this new paper in JAMA from Hussein et al. About triplet therapy, and
Yeah.
there's a line of thought that maybe a man like you should be getting triplet therapy, and but then you don't have a lot of Mets. You've responded well. We don't want to injure your quality of life anymore. One of the things that we have found out since last week is that that paper was most likely written by a medical writer and reviewed by the doctors who have signed it, which is a tactic, a strategy. It's not really a tactic, a strategy that's used by Bayer. And we don't love it. Both Len and I have voiced our discomfort, but they do it. So we can't stop that. The question is, to what extent did doctors like Matt Smith and Maha Hussein and Karim Fasazi read that paper carefully when they signed off on it? We don't know. So again, it's a little tricky to know where the triplet falls. Dr. Mark, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly ask if you could briefly tell us what you're doing for protecting bone, and then also just comment that Hutch has wonderful videos online for all types of exercises for us to use to manage some of the ADT symptoms.
Okay. I have not seen those videos yet. I've been, typically walking, you know, 3 or 4 times a week, doing some weight training, and been until May, when I became very busy. I had been meeting with a physical therapist weekly also to keep me going on it. And
are you taking the other question Dr. Mark asked, are you on a bone strengthener like denosumab or
yeah, I'm sorry, I am on a bone strengthener. Did I get it written down? I've only had, my first dose of it was about 5 weeks ago. And they also changed took me off of, the hormone. So you typically start abiraterone plus
prednisone?
prednisone. They've changed me to a different supplement, and yeah.
To dexamethasone? They put you on dexamethasone?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
Good strategy.
Yeah.
So Dr. Yazevsky gets minus points for using an old sample, but he gets plus points for switching to dexamethasone, right, Len?
That's right.
And I have not had any PSA testing since I switched, so
Okay.
I understand that can sometimes affect it.
Yeah, it can. It's an interesting tweak, and clearly he's knowledgeable. So that's definitely positive. Norm Pollock, you just put your hand up.
Just more a medical question. I think Steve said his PSA was under 6. Was the highest
Yes.
it got.
Yeah.
Is that very common to be de novo at that low of
Yes.
PSA?
Yeah. It's not a good sign, as probably Dr. Yasevsky has mentioned, and a lot of times when we see low PSA and high Gleason scores, it's a heads up that the disease could be difficult to treat. It's an early indicator that this is not normal disease.
Not quite what the majority of us have then.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a number of people. There's probably half a dozen people in this room who fit that bill. I'd have to look, but it always rings a bell for me when I hear somebody come in and say, I'm de novo, or I'm low PSA and I have a Gleason 9 or what have you. Well, look, given that we have a lot to get through today, we've given you a few things to take back to Dr. Yasevsky, and keep coming back, please. Report to us what he said, and we can keep providing you with more information to take back. Is there anybody that would like to say anything else to Steve before we move on?
I am sort of anticipating that they are going to start some chemotherapy in late summer, early fall.
Is that your view, or has he mentioned that to you?
He mentioned that when I brought it up, and
Yeah.
I had originally expressed concern of not just long life but quality of life, and I think that may have been why they didn't start it earlier.
Look, it's not out of the realm at all, and in a way I'm sort of pleased, because I think I think it shows that they're treating you aggressively. The only thing that I would want to know in your case is I'd like some recent somatic testing, reliable somatic testing. And
Okay.
I'm really dubious about doing somatic testing on tissue from February of 22.
Yeah.
Really dubious. And I think there's got to be better ways to go. I definitely would do a PSMA scan to see if anything shows up now that your PSA level is over 0.2. We there's a chance we'll see something, and if we see something, it gives us the opportunity to shoot at that, and with radiation, it also gives us the opportunity to biopsy it, and then I think if it were me, I would probably want to discuss getting the primary radiated as well, maybe before you started doing the chemo.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving along to my friend Derek. Where are you, Derek?
I'm in Southern California.
Yes, I know that. I
I'm
was
66.
being, where are you on the screen? So let me just tell my friends in this group that I do know Derek quite well. Hold on a minute. Sham, we got to mute you, man. We're getting too much music and goodness knows what. So I'm just muting you. Oh, we lost you. You'll be back. Derek has been a regular almost from the beginning in our pancreatic cancer group. And then it turned out that he has some recurrent cancer in his prostate. So now we're talking to him in this group, and I think we've seen you in a couple of others, Men Speaking Freely or something else. Oh, this gives me the opportunity. Men Speaking Freely, guys, Thursday. Who's going to do the promo? David Muslin or Dr. John? One of you. I'm calling on you right now to do a quick promo. Who
I
wants to
got
do
it, Dave. Men Speaking Freely is a twice a month group where we don't talk about all these technical things like we're talking about tonight. We talk instead about being men with serious illness. By the way, it's not just for cancer patients, it's for any men with serious illness. And talk about feelings and talk about coping and talk about learning how to be happy. And you're welcome to come. It's first and third Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for about an hour and a half. Nice group.
It's a great group. David and Dr. John moderate the first session in the month, and the sonorous voice of Rich Jackson on the Eastern Front moderates the second group of the month. So please join us on Thursday. So Derek, let's run through your background quickly and see if we can help you in this group. So how old are you?
66 years young.
How much?
60.
60s?
66.
66, thank you.
Clickety click. And you're in Southern California.
Correct.
And when was your prostate cancer first diagnosed?
Last year, about a year ago, June of this month.
Okay, and what was the PSA in your diagnosis?
At that time, the PSA was 4.3 total.
Okay, and your Gleason score?
I do not have a Gleason score, surprisingly. I don't know why. We did do a biopsy at that time,
Yeah.
and all 9 slices came back benign, except for one lesion, which showed atypical prostate glands, 12 millimeters in length.
So,
I was going to say the original MRI, they diagnosed it at a PI-RADS4 level
right.
based on what they were seeing through the MRI. So again, I'm
So,
not, go ahead.
and did you get treatment at the time?
I did not. The next step course of action at the time was a follow-up with a PSA level check in 1 year, which after speaking with Captain Jim, that did not seem correct to me based on what they found at that time. Also based
Okay,
on the fact that I had just survived pancreatic cancer, which turned out to be of the BRCA1 gene type, as well as ERBB2
okay.
gene type.
So that the BRCA1, is that genomic? Is that genetic or is that
It,
somatic?
it's alteration. It is not genetic.
It's not germline. Okay.
It is not germline, correct. I came back negative for any germline. But what they
Okay.
did is they did do the testing prior to the resection of the pancreatic growth. And
Right.
at that point is where they found the BRCA1 and ERBB2. Ever
Okay.
since then, I've been having liquid biopsies every 6 months. I mean, every 6 weeks, and knock
Oh,
wood, have had negative results thus far. That's since September of 21.
Now, so you've had no treatment to the prostate,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So what brings you?
So then
This
this
is
year, when we did
yes.
the follow-up PSA 1 year later, it comes in at 5.6.
Okay.
And so this Friday is when I'm going to be doing the next MRI uh,
Okay.
at that
So
point.
here's what I would suggest. I think that you belong in Dr. Mark's group. What do
Okay.
you think? What do you think, Dr. Mark?
I think that would be great, at this
My
stage.
concern is the presence of a BRCA1 alteration previously, which I know affects men in the lungs,
Right.
prostate, and other.
Right. Yeah, but your BRCA1 was somatic. It wasn't germline.
That's correct.
There's no we don't necessarily have reason to believe that unless we do a somatic test of whatever is there, which would be
Correct.
unusual, but there might be reason. Where are you being treated?
Dr. Gary Bellman, West Hills, California.
Yeah, is that Tower Urology?
No, it's
Okay. Okay, don't worry. Doesn't matter.
okay.
What I would say is I don't think, and you're very welcome to stay, but I don't think this is the best group for you. I think the group for you to be talking to is either the active surveillance group on
Correct.
Wednesday night, because they'll walk you right the way through it and what to do next, and possibly Dr. Mark's group, which meets them in
Second
this
chance.
room a week from tonight.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate your time, Rick, and thank you, Jim Marshall, for all you're doing for us.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jim. This group, we really are talking about men who are either high risk and looking at doing
Treatment.
a lot of hormone therapy off the bat, or they're doing chemo, or they've been treated. And if you hang around and listen, you will definitely learn a lot. But thank God we don't need to treat you in this group.
Correct. One other thing I do carry is multiple myeloma, which also causes bone lesions as well.
That's right. That
So
was the
I've got
group I forgot.
that's
Blood
right.
cancer. That was the group I forgot.
I have the trifecta.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Well,
Thank you for your time.
we don't want to see you in this group again. Let me just say that. Nothing
Works for
personal,
me.
okay?
Works for me. Thank you.
0152.
Okay.
We did not understand your entry. Please try again.
Okay. Mr. Fabish, we're getting noise from you. I'm gonna mute you. Okay. All right. So I think we are moving along to Andre.
Hello.
Hello, Andre. You got the you've got the scheme down now. And are you signed up with us? That's the first question. Are you getting a
No,
reminder for this group?
no, I just learned about it through a local gentleman who sends out every email regarding this subject, and this one seemed to pique my interest, so I just joined via that email.
Okay, perfect. So here's what we need to do. I see you're on the phone, so it's going to be difficult for you to put a message in the chat window. By the way, the chat window, guys, hasn't been too active yet tonight, but it's the two little boxes in the top right, and there's a message about Dr. Yazevsky from Dr. John in there. But either you can give us your email over the here, or you can send it to us, or you can go to the website, and you'll just get a reminder
That's
before
fine.
every group, and you can sign up for other groups. So we encourage you to do that.
Okay.
So, how old are you,
64,
and where do you live?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay, we've got a few other people in your locale. And what year were you first diagnosed?
This year,
Um, April?
yes.
Okay. And tell us what your Gleason score and your PSA level was at diagnosis.
Diagnosis, my PSA was 11 and a half. It's gone up to 15.75, and my Gleasons are all 4 plus 5 and 5 plus 5. All, it's a 2.5 centimeter tumor that spans the prostate. It's a PIRAD 5. So,
Oh, okay. And where are you being treated?
Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa.
Okay. Do you already are you still with the urologist, or have they assigned you a medical oncologist yet?
Yeah, I've seen 3 oncologists: radiation, surgery, medical for the hormone treatment. Yeah.
And who's your medical oncologist?
The medical one is Dr. Chatwell, but the lead of oncologist is Dr. Stone. He's
I'm
the
sorry.
Dr. Peter Johnstone is the lead of the group for me. He's the
And
vice chair at the Moffitt.
yeah, but is he a urologist?
No,
What's his special?
he's a radiation oncologist.
Oh, he's a radonc. Okay. Okay. Now, so you're getting good care. Have you done have they sent you for germline testing yet?
Last week, yes. And actually, no, last Tuesday, yes.
Okay, so you're still waiting on the results.
Yes.
Okay, well that's good. We're glad that they're and you'll tell us, God willing, when you get those results back, what's going on. What happened with the scans? Were there any scans?
Yes, I had a PSMA PET scan with the whatever it was. It cost me $2,300 to get the right dye there. That was very specific, and thank God it was contained in the prostate. It's bulging out into one of the nerve bundles, but it has not metastasized yet. But because of the Gleason scores and the fact that it's ruptured the capsule, they want to treat it as it's like it has metastasized. That's their thought process.
Yeah, that was the situation I had personally, so I get it. I understand that. In my own case, it actually was in the prostate bed when I was diagnosed, so I get what's going on. And what treatment are they recommending for you?
Well, I did about a month of Casodex, and then I just switched over last week to Orgovyx. And I'm
Hmm.
looking to get the high dose brachytherapy at the end of July, followed by 25 visits of IMRT.
And um, and how long are they talking about leaving you on the Orgovyx?
18 to 24 months.
So here's the good news, because it's always good to have good news,
Hey,
right?
yep,
Andre, it's always good to have good news, right?
I like good news.
In my day, we didn't have Orgovyx, and we didn't have a lot of these other drugs. But that was almost exactly the treatment path that I took in 2007, except instead of doing high dose, I did low dose. And I had my external beam first, 24 or 25 sessions, and then I had the seeds. And I did 28 months of Lupron. And knock on wood, 17 years later, I'm still not detectable. So there is hope. Okay. I don't say I'm cured, because when you have a Gleason 4 or Gleason 5, we can never assure cure with the technology we have today. But I have what is known as a durable continuing remission, to quote Snuffy Myers, who was been around the block a few times, was an old GU medical oncologist. Now, we know that the treatment that they are giving you is probably that is the gold standard. The only difference is, and I think I might want to discuss this with Dr. Chatwell and possibly Dr. Johnston, that in a situation like yours where it's clearly high risk, they are adding abiraterone at times now for a period of the time. And I think if it were me and I had had the option to do Abby, and by the way, I heard about Abby in 2008. That was the first time I ever heard about it from Chuck Ryan. He presented it, and he was one of the PIs. It sounded amazing, and I would have if it were me, I'd have a definite conversation with them about adding abiraterone to the Orgovyx.
We did, we
Even
did
though
talk,
you're,
Rick, we did talk about that last week, and she did mention, Dr. Chatwell had mentioned, yeah, at least a few of the secondary hormone therapies, but because of my family history and heart problems and things like that, I got her to relent on the Lupron, and I got the Orgovyx, that's
yeah,
supposedly less
yeah,
risk to the heart.
yeah.
And but there were some indications that some of the secondary medications might again risk heart problems. So we're going to go slow on that and see how
Okay,
things.
okay. No, I mean, that all makes sense. So, um, I'm going to throw it open to the guys. But do you have any questions you'd like them to focus on?
Well, I guess my concern is, of the three things I'm facing, is the ADT seems to have the most I guess chances of side effects long term. It sounds like you guys are dealing with it well, but the osteoporosis, and I'm hoping to gain function and everything again at the other end of this thing, and not to be on it long term. That's the hope, and I don't know if it's an unreal hope, but taking vacations from it, and then getting my testosterone back. I guess that's playing with fire for some. I don't know, but that's just kind of where I'm at the moment, looking at it pre the big hurdles of the treatment.
Um, okay, well, I'll summarize at the back end, but who wants to address some of those questions?
Well, this is John, Andre, and it's not out of the question that you might have a drug holiday sometime in the future.
Okay.
Well, can I just say one thing on that, John? I think that what you've got to look at is 18 to 24 months of
Yeah,
continuous
first.
therapy.
Yeah.
But the fact is that that should be the end of it, like it was for me. And you hope it doesn't come back because you have a chance at getting that durable remission. So that's really what you need to look at. I mean, there are other guys in this room who have already been diagnosed with the disease outside the capsule, and for them, they can't look at an initial definitive period, but you can look at an initial definitive period. And as I was able to do, and then once I came off, I monitored, and thank God I've never had to go back on again.
I guess that's my hope, is to follow your footsteps in that regard.
We hope so too. Anyone else have any comments? Dr.
Rick,
Jack, are you trying to put your hand up?
I am. I just want to ask you a question, Rick, because I hadn't heard in the past. You've had this durable remission for 17 years without your PSA rising. What has your testosterone been all these years? How high has it gotten?
It got to 700, and I think it settled about around 500.
Oh,
It took a while to come back, and then it was like 300, and then I supplemented. It didn't make any difference, and then it went up to 700, and then it came back down to 500, and I haven't tested it in several years.
okay. Well, that's terrific. I didn't know that, Rick. Somehow, if you told us before, I missed it. Thank you.
So there are a lot of strategies, Andre, for handling the hormone therapy. In a nutshell, they are exercise, exercise, and exercise. So it's really, really, really important, especially if you have a heart history, to get onto a really good exercise program. Hopefully, Moffitt has an exercise program they can recommend, or they've got help within there that they can work with you. Nutrition is also really important, but it's not going to be easy. I don't, nobody's going to tell you that hormone therapy is a breeze, because it ain't for most people. It might be for the minority, but if I ask people in this group now to put their hand up at how many it was a breeze for, I'm sure I could count them on less than one hand minus my thumb. So it's going to be tough. But that's why groups like ours are here for you, because we've got so much experience and we know some of the tricks to help you out. And I don't want to get into those weeds with you today until you're dealing with those issues. But when you're dealing with those issues, we want you to come here and say, oh, what do I do if I have hot sweats? So what do I do if I'm feeling really fatigued? What about my brain fog? Because we have the experience here. And sometimes there are things that we know about. I mean, I just heard about something just this afternoon to deal with hot flashes that I want to bring up at some time during this evening, that I wasn't on my radar before. But we do know a lot. We do know a lot of the things, and we can talk to you about them, and then you can take them back to your team at Marford and raise them with your team at Marford.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Rick.
Jim Marshall.
Excuse me, Andre, are you a veteran?
No, I am not.
Okay, just checking.
He was looking for another customer. Sorry, Captain Jim. Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on
on further comment on nutrition and going on ADT and or going on ADT and abiraterone, and especially if there's a history of heart disease, that the weight gain comes on pretty quickly. It's fairly common to put on 15, 20, 25 pounds in a 4 to 5, 6 month period after you start these blockers. And I would recommend aggressive weight management from the get-go, not to wait until we put on the weight, but to be proactive and and really get a nutritionist involved, get a diet in place so that the weight doesn't come on. It's probably a lot easier to prevent it from coming on than to lose it after you gain 30 pounds. And I'm talking from experience because I didn't do what I'm recommending and I put on significant weight. And of course, with heart issues, weight is an enemy in terms of stamina, in terms of fatigue, things like that. So if I could do it again, I would do this intermittent fasting from the get-go, not after I put on the weight.
That's
Thank you.
great advice. And Andre, what I would recommend is ask for an appointment with a registered dietitian at Moffitt. There will be one in the cancer center, and start working with them as soon as you can.
Very good. Thank you.
Jeff Marchi.
Yeah, I just want to mention that your results about that may vary. I have not gained 1 pound after 7 years on ADT, so never had a problem with it. It just didn't ever become an issue.
Yep. Yep. And that's, it's the exception rather than the rule. I mean, I'm a pretty small frame and I gained 15 pounds, which for me was a huge amount. So, but by and large, I think Dr. Jeff, most men find that they gain. So to be ahead of the game is good. Guys, I'm going to move along because we've got a lot of people that want questions, and we've still got an hour. And unless you have anything else, Andre, be sure to sign up.
I will.
You can go to AnCan.org. Somebody will put that in the chat window, AnCan.org, Alpha Nancy Charlie Alpha Nancy.org, and go to the contact us, and you'll be able to sign up for this group and any other of the groups that thank you, Adam, that we have. And since Adam was a good citizen, I'm going to go to him first because he has a question. How you doing, Commander?
Thanks, Rick. I'm hanging in there. I had a whirlwind last week, and that's kind of try to be as brief as possible with this. But basically, just to jump right into it. So I think last time we talked, I was, talking about doing radiating the primary, and some lymph nodes. Understanding that it was only going to tackle that, it wasn't going to. I still have a couple of lymph nodes outside of the pelvis, the abdominal region. Just knowing that I wasn't going to take care of that, but radiating the prostate itself. So scheduled for doing that. Went and saw the radoc here, who I like and who's good, but he's very confident, for lack of other words, but all ready to do it. And he broke on us that he's actually leaving, and he's going to be moving up to New York. But and I've been talking to him since January, since I finished chemo, about doing radiation. But he's like, I can get you in. We just need to start now in order to do. He wants to do 7 weeks of radiating the prostate and the lymph nodes in the pelvis. That said, of course, you guys had recommended Dr. E over at Houston Methodist, and I had an appointment with her scheduled, I think, for the 10th of June or 11th of June. But I really my thought process was, all right, I don't want to go see Dr. E when I'm already in the middle of radiation, so you might as well push off on that. But I would like to at least talk to somebody. And so, I do have a GU. I was seeing the doctor at MSK. So let me go ahead and make an appointment with her. And so I flew up there on last week, right after Memorial Day, and I saw her. And she initially, for whatever reason, even though they told me to bring my scans up there, and I did, she didn't have enough time to look at them, so she said, hey, let me call you back, but I think my gut is telling me about 80, 90%, I'm probably good with the radiation. Well, I was wrong with that. She consulted her colleagues, so the head of nuke medicine at MSK and then another radoc at MSK, just looking at my two PSMA PETs, the last one being in February. And what she had said was, while there had been marked improvement in the size and SUV intensity within the prostate, as well as bone and nodal lesions, there is also a paratracheal lesion that is of concern, that while it has a low SUV, it appears to have slightly grown. And so we're talking, it grew from, again, going off of PSMA PET measurements, 7 millimeters to 10 millimeters. So she then said, given the risk of high micrometastatic disease at diagnosis in the setting of high PSA, they're recommending, they think the imaging from February 24 is insufficient to render a final treatment plan at this time, and that they want me to do another PSMA PET, another CT of the chest, abdomen, pelvis, and then an MRI of the prostate. So that obviously threw me for a loop. I talked to the radoc here about that just briefly, and of course he flipped his lid and I can understand, because he's like, hey, dude, we've been talking about this since January. We're all ready to go. I've already done my preliminary imaging to prep me for the procedures, and you're playing mom against dad here. So he's like, basically, look, we're either going to do this or we're not. So I'm leaning. I did a pros cons list. My pros cons list kind of leans me toward going ahead and doing the radiation, and then after radiation going to see Dr. E, and then kind of seeing where we go from there. But I just was wondering what you guys had to say about that.
When is the very, very latest that you can start with your local guy?
Like either next week or the week after.
Okay.
But probably next week, if not this week.
So I would say go see Dr. E on the 10th. I would. Look, Slovin is an acquired taste. We've had people who love her. And we've had people who don't care for her very much. I know you had a good experience with her. She can be a real cold fish.
Sure.
And but she's a very good GU medical oncologist. At the same time, I don't think, this is my own personal view, I don't think she's as much of a visionary as somebody like Dr. Efstathiou. I really feel that you're getting a better package. And since she's going to be the one that you're going to see anyway, if Eleni said, no, I need more information, I'd say get the more information. If she said you didn't, what I would do is I'd get your butt over to Houston on the 10th and see what she says, and then go from there. And just tell the guy, you don't have to tell your local guy where you're going and what you're doing. just set it off for after that. The other issue is you got to make sure that your local guy does have the experience compared to getting it done. I mean, I know you don't want to do it somewhere away from Panama City, but you got to make sure that he does have the right experience.
Well, that's part of it, is because I believe he does. He was on the it was the HORAD trial, and he's been he's led a couple of these trials already as for this specific thing. And he's leaving here to go up to Syracuse to the center up there to head that up. So that's part of it, is because I don't necessarily trust someone else, with that, and of course it being 7 weeks of everyday treatment.
I know. I got it. Let's throw it out because this is a toughie. Anybody want to throw in their 2 cents? Norm Pollock.
Ask the radonc that you're talking to now, who he would recommend to do it for you. If you don't do it through him, I was in the situation I had to travel an hour and a half to go where I had the UT, and the guy says to me, "I can't do this to you." He says, "I got a friend right close to you that can do it, and I trust him to do me." So ask him, and because most of that's computerized anyhow. I mean, yeah, there's a little finesse to it, but the majority of it's on the computer. They don't. Plus they're I'm drawing a blank on who backs them up with the radiation. I can't think of what they call the guy that backs them up.
The radiation text.
No, not the text. There's a guy that calculates the radiation too.
Oh,
drawing a blank on what they call him.
He's the rad man.
The physicist.
He's the physicist.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have a special name, dosimetrist.
Yeah.
The dosimetrist.
So, the radonc isn't doing it all anyhow, so worth a try. Ask him.
Well, I wouldn't go there until you've told him you're not going to use it. Until you've told him you're not going to use it, because he's going to get suspicious. I mean, my 2 cents are, you're only a week away from the 10th. My 2 cents are, go see Dr. E. Anybody else have anything they'd like to contribute on this?
My thing is what's the, all the docs I've spoken to, some have been, gung-ho for it, some have been not, but even the ones who haven't been have all said, hey, this is kind of like a no harm, no foul situation. Yeah. So it's, my question would then be, okay, why should I wait if this is the best guy to do it,
Okay. So I think the answer to that, Adam, is that they're not saying, Memorial Sloan Kettering isn't saying don't radiate.
Right.
What I hear them saying is, do we know exactly what we're radiating in all the places we're supposed to radiate? And we're not comfortable that you have a good enough map to design the radiation right now.
Well, yes, but my issue with that is this radiation is not pointed at my chest. It's not pointed at, the paratracheal lymph node in the chest, or, and it also hasn't shown up on, they say it's grown a little bit, but hasn't shown up on any of the CT scans I've done since initial diagnosis. And we know, because this was part of my current radoc yelling at me. He's like, yes, no kidding. You've got that out there. This isn't addressing that. This is addressing solely the primary and the lymph nodes around the primary. And, and so that's what,
right.
That's what he's doing.
I think what Memorial Sloan Kettering is saying, whilst we're doing it, we need to focus up there as well, so you don't have to come back. That's what That's what I hear them saying.
Well,
Dr.
verbally,
Mark,
yeah.
go, I'll come back to you, Adam. Dr.
No,
Mark.
I just think this is another example of ready, shoot, aim. If the people at MSK are telling you, we don't know exactly where we have to treat, I would feel a lot more comfortable with that being unknown at present than rushing before a guy leaves in a smaller institution. It's not just the person who is your radoc. It is the dosimetrist. It is the therapist. It is the institution that has to maintain a team of well-trained people to make it work. And you're going to find that even with exactly the same treatment, people who end up at MSK are going to do better than people who end up in a smaller area hospital. That's just the way medicine works. So if I were in your situation, I would wait to hear. They're getting a brand new prostate oncologist heading the department there, Dr. Himanshu Nagar, who is stellar and very experienced. And I think that's going to be a place to go. They're solid across the board. So that's what I would do.
You talking about MSK is getting the new prostate guy?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, the fellow's moving across the street from Presbyterian to head the prostate oncology radiation at MSK now.
You know, I don't disagree with Dr. Mark. What I would say is that if they had issues, then I'd be asking them to consult with your local guy to make sure they're doing what you need, so you don't have to get it done at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and that's not unusual to happen.
And my issue with MSK, like we talked about before, the only thing with MSK is that they won't do virtual visits. That's why I was going to go see Dr. E at Houston Methodist, because I don't want to fly up to New York every time I need to be seen by,
Yeah, exactly.
By MSK.
Well, I come back to seeing E next week, seeing Dr. E next week, and I think we got to move on. Anybody have any last contributions? Because I don't know we're going to solve this for you, Commander.
No,
I think.
Yeah, no, I got a decision to make. I'll have to make it, and I'll make it and move on. I just, if it's not an issue of toxicity, of potentially shortening my lifespan by having it done, then I just need to make the decision.
Yeah. I mean, you're so close to getting to see her. I would see what she says, and she's probably going to say, "Go ahead and do it." But
Yeah.
she's a lot more casual. We got a number of guys in this room who see her right now, and she's a lot more casual's the wrong word, but she's a lot more
no bullshit.
no bullshit, and
Down to earth.
Down to earth, practical. She's going to give you the best practical advice.
That's going to be great, but I mean, the disease is weakest now. And so then, like, if she says, yeah, go ahead and radiate it, then my next question is going to be, who's going to radiate it? I don't live around anybody. I'm in BFE.
Right. But you see, you'll say, look, I'm in Panama City. What's the best way to do it? And she's going to come up with the practical solution for what to do in Panama City. That's what she's going to do. I'll have this one look at it, and then they'll talk to your doc, and blah, 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 because that's how she thinks. She knows you're not going to move into Houston to get the radiation, but maybe she's got somebody who would look at it. That's sort of why I'm saying this.
Yeah. All right. No, I know you got to get to. I appreciate it, Rick.
Okay. You can call me. Okay. Goodbye. All right. Peter Monaco.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
I turned my camera off for a second. It's coming back. Okay. So I just had a question. I went for that PSMA test. Dr. Patel sent me for it, and it came back pretty good. There was just one spot, a lymph node up on my clavicle. Otherwise, nothing else lit up. And he's sending me for spot radiation. I go for a consultation tomorrow. So, does anybody know anything about that? Like, how many sessions is that typically? Is that something done in all at once? Like, if you have 5, do you do them 5 consecutive days, or does it go longer than that? I mean,
Well,
I'm
what
seeing
did
the
they
guy
tell you?
tomorrow. Excuse me?
So, in other words, he said, I'm sending you for spot radiation, and then tomorrow they're going to be suggesting that you're going to get into the details. Is that it tomorrow?
Yeah, I see the radiation oncologist tomorrow. I guess it's a consultation.
Okay.
So I'm going to New York to see him, and I mean I have no idea what to expect. There's one spot that lit up after that.
Okay, so let me stop you, Len. You know a little bit about spot RT.
Yeah. First of all, I would definitely go ahead and do that, Peter. But who are you going to see to do the radiation at Mount Sinai?
His name is give it to you in a second.
Is it Stock?
Dr. Robert Stewart. He's at the
Stewart.
Union Square office.
Oh.
You know him?
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully they'll tell you it's just maybe 3 sessions with SBRT. I think that's the more typical route. If they tell you, 15 with IMRT, I would find someone else.
Okay. Well, I see. That's good to know. That's why I wanted to talk about this. And if it's 3, is it usually like 3 consecutive days or once a week? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Maybe every other day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll know more next week. I just wanted to get some feelers out there to see who knew what, if anything, about this.
Anybody? I definitely endorse Len's recommendation to go with SBRT. Tell them if they're not going to do SBRT, and I expect they will, but if they're not going to do SBRT, then tell them that's what you want and have him send you to somebody else in the system that's doing SBRT. Anybody in this group had SBRT spot radiation?
I did. I had it.
Dr. Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, they gave me a choice basically between intensive 5 days in a row or 15 less intense, and I chose the 5 intensive spots over. It was a 2.5 hour session every day for 5 days. But
wow.
I didn't have just one spot. You have just a supraclavicular lymph node. You're very fortunate.
I have one lymph node. It's near my clavicle. Yeah. That's the only that lit up.
Yeah, that's good. That's fortunate. I had a few more than that. I had a couple of bone lesions and some lung lymph nodes. So it took more, but every day was 2.5 hours, and it was pretty intense. But I was glad to get it over with within a week.
All right, thank you for that feedback.
Sure.
Anyone else before we move on?
Joel Blanchett is not with us tonight, huh?
Joel Blanchett is with us.
Oh, he is? Oh, he's had several SBRT spot radiations.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
What's your experience, Joel?
That's correct. Usually there's a day skipped in between the treatments. It could be 1, 3, or 5 treatments of SBRT. I've had 3 major sessions of SBRT to 3 different parts of my body. it's usually, I'm surprised about the 2.5 hours. Usually you're talking about more like 4 or 5 minutes. Takes you longer to take your clothes off and put it back on than it does to do the radiation. So I don't know what they meant by the 2.5 hours.
That was what the other gentleman said. That was his experience. I don't know what I'm going to expect. I'm going for a consultation tomorrow, so I'll know more about what to expect. I was just curious.
That was Dr. Jack. Okay, we'll let Dr. Mark wrap it up because he is our RT expert. Go ahead, Dr. Mark. Yeah.
Okay. My only thoughts is I would ask, with whatever methodology, what sort of protection they have for movement. If you are radiating a spot on your leg, it's very easy. Your leg, if it doesn't move, the spot isn't going to move. But an area around your clavicle, every time you take a breath, is going to move. So I'd want to know how they time for that to protect the area. That's my only point.
That's a good point. Thank you
And
for
with that great advice, we're going to wrap it up and move on. I think you've got a few talking points, Mr. Monaco.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moslin.
Okay, so my PSA is starting to rise. Let me give you a quick rundown of the ADT I had. February of 20 started on Lupron. 6/20 started enzalutamide. 8/20 got off the enzalutamide. 10/20 got on Abby. 7/21 stopped the Abby. September of 21 was my last Lupron shot. 4 of 22 I got on Dara. September of last year I stopped the Dara, went on a drug holiday, and all through this whole time it's been non-detectable. January of this year, non-detectable. 90 days later, 0.1. 30 days later, February of 24, 0.21. And I haven't talked to anybody yet with respect to the doctors, but I'll just back up with one thing. Russell Shmulewicz always said, when it starts to rise, we'll do a Polarify test and we'll see what's happening. So I know, Len, you're kind of in the same boat I am, but I just wanted to get some input. Sorry to give you all that information so quick, but I think you got a handle on it. And I've been sensitive the whole time, castrate sensitive.
Leonardo, what are your pearls of wisdom for Mr. Moslin?
So David, you said Shmulewicz said when it starts rising, we'll do a PSMA PET, but he hasn't done it yet?
Not yet, because it was just last week that I came up with the 0.21.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be the trigger point. It should be approved by insurance.
Okay, so time to take a test.
Yeah.
You know, one other thing that was interesting, I actually had dinner with Dr. E last Friday night, and I kind of gave her my history and showed her all the tests that I've had. She said, you should stop all these tests and just do an MRI, a whole MRI. I don't know if I necessarily understood that, or I don't know if anybody can comment on that. I think she's talking about all the radiation. She said a whole body MRI without contrast. You know, I can't tell you, Jack, because my hearing aids were not working well. I couldn't hear real well in the loud restaurant.
Yeah, because that was recommended twice from up there in Sloan Kettering twice. I've had 2 MRIs total as a follow-up and no contrast. So
no contrast.
You know, that's one way of looking for metastasis,
right?
Especially bone metastasis.
Yeah, I mean, I regularly get CTs and MRIs like every 6 months, kind of as a regular check.
Dr. Mark, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Joel.
Okay, real quick. I've been fortunate enough to have to deal with some radiation cystitis 2.5 years out. At least that's what we believe looking at the cystoscopy. And I'm wondering if anybody has done hyperbaric oxygen. If you text me in the
Oh,
chat
hold
window,
on, hold on, Mark. We'll come to you for your question. I'm talking. This is you had your hand up. I thought this was you were talking about this.
No. I'm sorry. It was about that.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Promise. Okay, and we do have experience with hyperbaric. Okay, and we'll help you. We'll connect you to the right people. Sorry, I thought you had a comment on Joe Blanchette.
Yes, Dr. E gives me a whole body MRI every 6 months. I've already had 2 already, and it's a 2.5 hour MRI in the machine. Not easy to do, but she loves it because it takes a very fine picture of your whole entire body from head to mid thigh, I guess, and it's better in some ways than the PSMA because the PSMA all it does is show a very bright light where the cancer is, but it doesn't define exactly where to go get the cancer and treat it. So that's why you need an MRI. But out of the 5 major hospitals on the Houston campus, Houston Methodist is the only one with that type of MRI machine, and all the other major hospitals use Houston Methodist to their machine for whole body MRIs. It's also called pelvic, chest, and abdominal MRI by different institutions, but those are usually separate tests as opposed to one all in one sitting. So I've been very pleased with it, even though I don't like to take them because they're tough on you. But they're very descriptive. That's how she found 4 spots on my spine of dormant prostate cancer. Was with that whole body MRI. If I had just taken the PSMA, it wouldn't have lit up at all. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I did take the PSMA and they didn't light up, but the whole body MRI showed up the dormant prostate cancer, and since then I've been radiated for that SBRT wise.
Thank you, Joel. That makes a lot of sense because I had a couple mets on some ribs and I had to go through a series of MRIs or tests on my chest because they'd come up different every time, and finally it sorted out where they found 2 mets, but that took a lot of testing. Yeah, I'll talk to Shmulewitz about that.
Just realize that an MRI, normal MRI, will only take a picture every 5 millimeters of depth. On a MRI that a radiation oncologist runs on you for treatment purposes, takes a picture every 1 millimeter. So it defines a tumor much better, exactly where it is, so they can shoot the beam at the right place.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. We're going to keep rolling along here. I think that was quite handy. Hold on a minute. Derek, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so the MRI, is that that you were speaking of, was that equivalent to a nuclear bone scan? This full body MRI.
Those are separate things. I've had the whole body MRI and bone scan done the same day. They're 2 different tests, in my case at least it was.
I think the technician bone scan is the nuclear bone scan. I think that's the same thing.
Yeah, they don't use those technician bone scans much anymore. They've been replaced by the PSMA scans.
Right.
And I just want to comment. I just want to comment. Dr. Jack is not going in incognito. He had a little dilation earlier on today, so that's why he's got the dark glasses on. We thought he wanted to be a film star here tonight, but it's dilation.
It's not Hollywood, right?
It's not.
So
Hollywood.
what's the right description of this MRI that I want to get, Joel or RD?
Whole body.
I don't think you want MRI with contrast.
Yeah, the whole body. It's called
total body MRI, no contrast.
No, it was with contrast.
Dr. E gave me two whole body MRIs with contrast. So
Wow.
Yeah, with contrast.
that adds another half hour to the whole process.
Wow.
Thank you,
So
Jens.
so you got a with
Whole
and
body
without.
MRI with contrast. Okay,
With- without. All right.
let's go to our new low intermediate lead moderator, Mark Perlow, Dr. Mark Perlow, who we see occasionally in this group, but we always welcome him because of all of his knowledge. And Mark is going to be running that low intermediate group. We are delighted. He was outstanding in his first. He was so good in his first session that he inspired Dr. John, and Dr. John was brilliant on the following day. So I don't know that you knew that, Mark, but you inspired Dr. John, and he did a great job last week. So your question is for radiation cystitis. Do we have any experience with hyperbaric chambers? The answer is we do. Is there anybody in the room right now who has used hyperbaric treatments for cystitis?
It's actually prostatitis. The bladder was beautiful.
Oh, sorry.
No, well, that's okay. But they coded it as cystitis. That's how you get it paid. They would not pay for radiation prostatitis. But as soon as the catheter or the cysto comes back, it just was leaking blood. And they say, well, you could do finasteride, and in a year it might stop that.
So wait a minute. So hold on a minute. Are we dealing with, which end are we getting the blood from? Are we getting it from the rectum, or are we getting it from the penis?
Well, I have in the passing clots, small clots, and there's a moderate microscopic hematuria. But it's when you're looking at the prostate, you can just see the blood coming out on the cysto.
Okay. So, but are you expelling that blood through your rectum or your penis?
No, penis. In urine.
Through your penis. Okay. So, because I almost went to Len because he's our resident expert on the proctitis. We have a couple of guys who have used hyperbaric chambers with some success. One fellow in the Virginia area, and I will connect you to him, and somebody else, but I can't remember who it is offhand. I cannot, I need to look at my notes and I can't do it right now, but I will connect you. But the answer, oh, I know who it is. The other person is Alan Moskowitz. So I will connect you to Alan Moskowitz and to Ravi.
Thank you.
There is a risk of cataracts, Mark,
Yes.
with hyperbaric.
Yes, there.
Yes.
From what I hear, it has to do somewhat with the degree of the atmospheric pressure. They go from 1.5 to 2.5, and less than 2.5. It's supposed to be a lot less, but we're getting older, which means that we all have nascent cataracts there, and I wouldn't want to make that any worse. And then the other is a lot of these IV clinics and bullshit health energy clinic and what have you, they do 31% O2. This place is legit, and they're one of the first who have done it. I'm seeing about 90% response with a month's time, so that would be good.
I'm just trying to, let me, hold on a second. Let me just, they've got to leave early. Guys, if you're going to leave early, let me know at the beginning and not at the, right when you're about to leave, because it makes it hard for us to adjust. Alan Babcock, did you need time, and are you about to leave? He may have left. And Joe Commander, you definitely needed time. Are you about to leave? Okay. Okay. Well, that takes two people off of our list. That makes life a little easier. So Joe will ask us next week, and so sorry. I'll come back to you. I think that both Alan and Ravi had good outcomes, but they went through around 40 visits, I think, Mark. So, all right, I've made a note. I will connect you to them, and they'll tell you more. One of them, I think it was Ravi, did have cataract issues, but I'm not. One of them had cataract issues, and we've had other people previously who have had cataract issues as well. But anybody else have anything they want to contribute on hyperbaric treatments? Okay, well, we're moving right along. Tony Fig.
My question has to do with urine flow. I had radical prostatectomy 2 years ago, and then after that I had ADT and radiation treatment. But the urine flow seems to be getting slower and slower, and I'm not sure. I was going to contact the urologist and do a cystoscope, but I didn't know if there would be some other involvement, perhaps with the radiation or something. I used to be able to pee over the top of the car, but now I'm just peeing on my shoes. So I didn't know what direction to take or what to consider with that.
Who wants to take that one on?
It seems to be, having the prostatectomy 2 years ago, if it was scar tissue, that would have been resolved quite some time ago.
So the radiation effect on the urethra, where they do the anastomosis, that can continue to have an effect for a year or two. The most common time after the radiation for the prostate, I was told in my situation, is 2 years. I still have the prostate, but it really starts to peak at 2 years. So I wouldn't be surprised. And it would seem like if you've tried some tamsulosin or one of the alpha blockers, also Cialis, and you're still having problems with it, then they might want to do a cystoscopy to check.
Isn't that tamsulosin usually used if you have a prostate?
Well, it is used if you have symptoms of BPH, but it may have an effect on the sphincter, on the bladder sphincter, to allow you to get more out.
They removed the sphincter there and all the nerves, so there was no nerve sparing when they did the radical prostatectomy.
So if they remove the sphincter, are you leaking? Are you incontinent?
Very, very little. There's the external sphincter, so very infrequent that I have any leakage.
I'm not sure on that, and I would ask your doc. I'm not sure the specifics of all the innervation, but I would suspect that the tamsulosin might help with that, but I can't be certain.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Anybody else who had a radical prostatectomy and then had urine flow issues subsequently would like to say anything? It's interesting. We don't often get that conversation in here. It's
I had it for
usually
a couple of weeks, Rick, a couple of weeks for me, and then a lot of Kegels later, I didn't have any more problems.
right. But this is really with the flow tightening up after some time, which may have something to do with strictures and some growth. Any experience on that from anybody? Subsequent
Yes,
strictures?
yes. I had radiation 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and only within the last 6 months I've been having major problems. And they've done urethograms, and it is a stricture. So far, I can still pee, but they say I'm probably going to need surgery eventually.
And do they suspect that this is from the original radical prostatectomy?
I didn't have a prostatectomy. I just had radiation.
Oh, you had just had radiation. Okay, they think it
Scarring
was
from the radiation, and they said over time it never gets better; it only gets worse.
Right. Tony, did you have any radiation following the surgery?
It was probably 8 months after surgery that I had
Right, but
38 sessions.
right. So that's where right. So that's where the issue is coming from. And yes, it's possible if you had subsequent radiation that you are dealing with strictures. And I think the advice that Mark is suggesting is solid, which is you need to stick a scope up there and see what they can see. Because,
What
it may
would
be.
strictures be?
So strictures are a closure of the tubes.
Okay.
So what's happening is that the radiation has irritated the urethra. And the urethra, and it can take a long time, as we've said. And now that urethra is starting to close, so the flow isn't as good. Now, there are things they can do to open that flow. And that's what they're talking to Mark Valens about. How bad it is for you, it's worth talking to a urologist and saying, you think you may have some possible stricture. It's not bad, but you might do, and ask them what they can do about it. And, they want to take a look and see what the alternatives are.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, and Tony, keep watching. I was still peeing, but not as well. And suddenly I had acute kidney failure because I wasn't peeing enough and it backed up into my kidneys. So make sure you watch that. And if you're not peeing very well, get to a doctor and have them scan it because you do not want to have kidney failure.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, a huge, huge point because you don't want to get into the situation that Mark found himself in. So if you think there are issues, you're better off going to discuss it right now. Sylvester, I know you're a bit of an expert on this one.
Approximately 30 years, maybe 25 years before I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I developed a urethral stricture. At first, it seemed like I went through the same stages Tony is now going through. And I went to the urologist, and I was advised I wasn't drinking enough water to drink more water. Well, I started drinking water day and night, but it didn't help at all. The stricture developed, closed completely. I was in agony. I went to the emergency room. I was admitted to the hospital, And in those days, they had what they called sounds, and they tried to run sounds up the penis into the urethra, and the sound was just bend up. So they did surgery. And when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer and had a prostatectomy, I began to, well, prior to that, my stricture would, it left scar tissue. And about every 3 to 4 years, I had to go to a urologist, and they would use an instrument and cut away the scar tissue. And I was advised that the scar tissue would continue to grow, which it has been. When I had the prostatectomy, I developed a second stricture. And I had the prostatectomy in 1999. And since the prostatectomy, I had radiation. And the strictures got worse. And about 10 years after my treatment for radiation in 2007, I have been doing a daily dilation using a catheter. Each day I do a dilation, and that keeps the strictures at bay. But 4 years ago, the scar tissue got to be such that I had to go and be hospitalized overnight for them to remove the scar tissue. And when the scar tissue is removed, I come home with a catheter that's inserted into the bladder for a period of 2 to 3 weeks. And the catheter is then removed. But I still catheterize myself daily. Each morning when I get out of bed, I catheterize myself. And so far, it has been working very well for me. And that's it. Thank you.
Can I ask
So
you
I
a quick
think
question, Sylvester? Do you do when you scar on your skin? Do you form keloids?
When they did the prostatectomy,
Yes.
that's when this keloid developed. But other than that, no.
Okay, but that's the only, in general, when you get cut, not only the prostatectomy, other surgical procedures, or if you cut yourself, do you form a keloid?
No.
But you did when you had the prostatectomy scar.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wonder if you have a propensity toward keloid both internally and externally, and that's why you're so predisposed to getting this kind of a scar formation, this sort of a genetic anomaly where this just happens to you in some people, and it's not typical, but maybe some people are just predisposed to developing this kind of scar formation, and it's unfortunate you have to catheterize yourself with a metal sound you use every day.
No, it's plastic.
Oh, it's plastic. Oh, they graduated since I was in school. They used metal in those days. They were bougies.
Yeah, I went through the metal when I was going to the urologist, and he would do the catheterization. But about 15 years, maybe 15 years ago, they came out with the self-catheterization kit, and it's plastic.
Yeah, so I got to move this along because we've still got a few people to get to, but I think the bottom line, Tony, is go see the urologist, which is what you were thinking of doing, and it's quite possible that it could be the beginnings of a stricture, and we don't want it to get any more.
All right,
Okay?
thank you very much for all of your input.
Okay. So let me just tell you, since we're getting close to the top of the hour, I've got Jeff Wood, I've got Richard Fisk, I've got Daniel Straub, and that's it. So we've only got 3, so we won't be waiting too long. A couple of people dropped off. So we're going to go to Jeff Wood next.
Just a quick update. After being off ADT for 4 years, I started back on in March with on Orgovyx. I was originally on Lupron and just started Orgovyx in March. And my experience has been, it's very dramatic compared to Lupron as far as how quickly it dropped everything. Lupron, I still had testosterone after a year and a half. Within a month, it just knocked my testosterone down below, 2.5. I hope that means good things are happening, because it's the hot flashes are pretty significant, and I really feel like I am chemically castrated, whereas I didn't feel that with Lupron. That's my update.
Exercising daily. Good man.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel it's helping? Do you feel a little invigorated?
Fatigue has never been my problem, really. The hot flashes are really intense. I mean, some of them will last 5 minutes. Usually in the middle of the night. Those are the ones in the middle of the night. So no, my only real effects are the hot flashes and just being, again, I really feel like I'm chemically castrated, where I never felt like that before on Lupron.
Yeah.
And maybe that means it's going to do a great job. And when it comes back quickly, when I get off of it, I'll be happy again. I don't know how long I'm going to be on it, really.
How high did your PSA get before you started back on it?
Like 0.8, 0.9.
And did they see anything on a PSMA scan?
No.
Nothing at all, huh?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Well, there was a comment put in by Gao Shan in the chat window earlier on tonight, and it was something I was going to raise, but there was an article in MedPage today reporting on, I think it must be a paper, but I've got to find it, that oxybutynin seems to have had some significant benefits for men who are suffering from hot flashes. And oxybutynin is a bladder drug to treat spasms, and it significantly reduced the number and severity in the group that they measured, and I can't remember offhand how big the sample was, but it was a relatively small sample. Sorry, I can't remember the size of the sample. I will be writing it up in the next reminder. The good news about oxybutynin is that it's not very expensive, and so if you're starting to feel this issue, then he didn't. Gaoshan didn't put a link in, but hold on till next week, and I'll put it, or send me a note, and I will include it. Mark Valence, do you have some information on the oxybutynin?
The bad news of oxybutynin for me was it caused urinary retention. This was before I had my kidney failure, and I would have trouble starting peeing. And when I got off the oxybutynin, it got better.
So what did you take it for? Did you take it for hot flashes or for what?
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Jeff, oxybutynin.
Yeah, so I just saw a patient who developed a paroxysmal atrial tachycardia. She was put on ditropan for an overactive bladder, to relax her bladder, to increase her bladder volume.
Okay,
And
time out, Dr. Jeff. Tetrapan is oxybutynin,
yes, correct.
guys.
Yes. So it caused paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, which is a supraventricular tachycardia. You should not use this in people who have a history of rapid heartbeats. Anticholinergics cause blockage of acetylcholine and adrenal norepinephrine and epinephrine take over. And if you have a history of rapid heartbeats, atrial fibrillation, PAT, SVT, I wouldn't recommend taking it. And you also have to be careful with this. If you have a narrow angle glaucoma, you can't really use it. You shouldn't use it.
Right. And you also shouldn't be using it if you're on one of the IDEs, like apalutamide, enzalutamide, or darolutamide, because it interacts with the CYPA3 pathway, and which can change the strength of the drug. But the fact is that nobody's going to go out here and buy oxybutynin without talking to their medical team first. But we just want you to know this could be another way to handle hot flashes. That said, it's a small sample, but it was just reported at ASCO. Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Jeff, for raising all those issues, because I wasn't going to get into the weeds on it, but I did read this article and I did think it was interesting that it really is only suitable if you're on either an ADT drug or an ADT plus abiraterone.
Just as a quick point of information, this patient, her doctor never asked her if she had any cardiac arrhythmias. So, we're our own best advocates. So now everybody here knows it. So if a doctor suggests it and you have this, reject it or bring it up and tell them.
Yeah, it's such a great point, Dr. Jeff. I mean, we see time and time again that the doctors don't check the drug interactions, and they don't even consider some of the patient's history when they prescribe. And I don't know. And like you say, this sessions like this will make you your own best advocate, right? And comments like that from Dr. Jeff. Thank you. Anything else on oxybutynin before we move on? Okay. And I did blow it because Mike McCabe wanted some time. So Mike, you were on very early. Would you like some? And you said you might want some time. Would you like some time?
Rick, I'm okay for now. I will have an update coming up, with some diagnostic stuff that I'm going to be having. So I'll wait till then, Rick.
Okay. All right. Yes, so we've got Richard Fisk and then Daniel. Richard Fisk.
Yes, sir. Increasing ADT side effects. I've been on Lupron and abiraterone for just over 19 months, headed to 24 months. And it seems like the side effects, the fatigue, the dizziness, the brain fog, particularly the fatigue, are increasing markedly. I'm trying to exercise, and sometimes I just can't get out of bed. I recognize that exercise is the closest thing to a cure. I was just wondering, do side effects get worse over time? And is there anything else I can be doing?
Side effects definitely get worse over time. So they are cumulative for some guys. They certainly were for me. And we've seen it in other guys. What else can you be doing? I'll throw that one out for anybody on the call to make suggestions to Richard Fisk. How can we get him to hang in for the last 6 months here?
Richard, I would say your only hope in battling fatigue is you got to force yourself to get out of bed, get out there, and get some cardiovascular exercise and even some weightlifting.
I recognize intellectually that it's just a matter of sucking it up and moving on.
Yeah.
Easy day.
Yes. I know it's easier said than done, but it has to be done.
It is what it is. You can't change channels.
Yeah. You know what amazes me, Rick, is there was a time when you couldn't have an advanced AnCan call where somebody wouldn't talk about the Embr Wave 2 for hot flashes, and I haven't heard anybody talk about that in quite a while. Did people sour on that, or it's just
No, it still works. It still works well, and we push it sometimes. But you know, even up between Embr Wave and oxybutynin, if you're a good candidate, the oxybutynin's a bit cheaper and it might work. You know, but you're right. We always used to talk about the Embr Wave, and the Embr Wave is another good solution. But we haven't had so many people complaining about hot flashes recently. But that's a good point.
If I may, what is the Embr Wave?
Who's going to put it in the chat window? The Embr Wave is a gizmo that goes on your wrist. Anybody wearing one? Mr. Muslin left. So anybody got one on right now? Oh, no, he
Jeff
didn't
Markey
leave.
usually is our...
Do you have your Embr Wave on, Mr. March?
Sorry, remember the Orgovyx really makes a big difference.
Oh, okay. The Orgovyx makes a difference. David Muslin is with us. Do you have your Embr Wave on? Oh, come away from the screen.
I'm not wearing it. I haven't been wearing it since I've been taking the estradiol, but it worked for me. But it's sitting over there where it would get charged up, but I haven't been using it for the last few weeks.
Okay, maybe you can make a deal. Maybe you can make a deal and sell it used to Richard Fisk. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I got it for $250. I'm not sure what they cost now.
I think you can get them at Costco. Is what I heard. So
eBay, and we'll come
Amazon.
to you.
Amazon has them.
Amazon. So they
get 30-day refund and return your money back. But it really helps night flashes. It really helps if you get the waking up in bed all sweaty at night. It really helps.
Oh, sounds good.
Basically, what it does is it shortens the duration, right? So you feel it coming on, you press the button, and it will kind of cut it short. That was my experience.
Okay, sounds good.
Richard, we're putting Len just posted the link, and I just recopied it, and it should be there now for everybody to see. Wait a minute.
Yep, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now everybody, so you can see it now for everyone. It acts on a nerve. I forget the name of the nerve. One of the docs will tell you. Dr. Jeff has his hand up, so he'll probably know. And it acts on that nerve, and it helps you regulate your body temperature, both chills and hot flashes, and reach out, send a note to Steve Schuler, go make a deal with him. So you know, we've actually joked about having a secondhand market for Embr Waves here before. So we've got a bunch of people with their hands up. So let me just get around them. Dr. Jim, Captain Jim, you were the first.
Yeah, Richard, I know it's hard, but you just have to go do it. Okay, it's a mental thing. Okay, and the more that you do it, the simpler it gets. because if you don't do it, it gets harder. So suck
Understood.
it up.
Understood. Thank you for the encouragement.
Okay, sure.
Dr. Jeff, you're
So,
up next.
Richard, I empathize with you 100%. I'm in the same boat you are. I have ADT and abiraterone. I get overwhelming fatigue. I want to exercise every day, but as you said, and you correctly said it, there are just some days you just can't. You know it's the right thing to do, you want to do it, but the fatigue is so intense. It's an overwhelming fatigue. Some days your arms and legs feel like cement blocks and you just can't do the exercise. So I had a conversation today with a Chinese herbalist. I don't normally consult them, but he's a friend of mine. And I told him about this overwhelming fatigue. He knows I have cancer. And he said, well, why don't you give ginseng a try? Now, I haven't tried it, it was just today. So I am tomorrow going to get some ginseng tea. I'm going to start with that and see if I get some extra energy from ginseng. I have to do some more research that it doesn't interact with the meds we're taking, but if it doesn't, I'm willing to give it a try and see if ginseng is of any value. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot.
And
Okay,
the
sounds
word
good.
is it should be American ginseng from Wisconsin is usually what's considered to be the best, Dr. Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Because I've had a
Amazon
patient
sells
where I've
it.
just wanted to lie down in a parking lot.
Amazon sells it. It's called Prince of Peace. It's supposed to help with memory problems too. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's keep moving along. David Muslin, your hand's up next.
I'm just worried. I'm just wondering if Mr. Fitz also could be getting a little depressed, and maybe that has some impact on the low energy.
I suspect there is a component there. Yes. Thank you.
And you know, if there is, Richard, there is absolutely nothing wrong because the hormone therapy is affecting your receptors in your brain. And there's nothing wrong also with talking to your doc about trying some antidepressants, which may help you immensely. And, you know, even something like venlafaxine, which could have a double action for you because it's also a drug that's used to control hot flashes. It didn't work. The venlafaxine didn't work for me, but then that's because I take venlafaxine and have done now for 20 years, 24 years to manage my chronic depression. So I think that was the reason why the venlafaxine didn't help me. My body was already accustomed to it, but some people do fine on venlafaxine. In fact, the oxybutynin article that I just read mentioned venlafaxine as another alternative. So discuss it with your medical team, and maybe you'll get a double whammy out of it. I take an extended release. When I was on hormone therapy, my doctor told me to up the dose, and I upped my dose, and it helped me a great deal. Not with the hot flashes, but it helped me with the depression. And so strongly recommend that. We're moving along here. Everybody's got questions now. Tony Fig.
Yeah, Richard, I strongly would suggest getting a training partner. It would also help with any type of depression. But even if you're not going to a gym, you could get somebody else that wants to exercise, and you could use resistance bands as well as doing some sort of cardio, riding bike or walking. And the more you get into it with another person, the more pleasure you'll get to it. And eventually, as Rick says, it could become magical. So, to really enjoy it. So I really suggest training with someone else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
exercise buddies are fantastic. We actually wanted to set up a program with exercise buddies at UCSF, but HIPAA stopped us doing it. But I love the idea of an exercise buddy. Moving right along, Norm Pollock.
So my wife's, she got, I don't know how many of you know, she got Parkinson's and she's been deteriorating lately and a fair amount of depression. And we found it's called Mood Improve from Life Extension and also L-theanine extended release. The Mood Improve is a probiotic that ups your serotonin because a lot of your brain chemicals are made in your gut. And it's really helped her a lot. She's takes it every day like clockwork because she thinks it helps quite a bit. So I should take it myself, but I don't. So.
Yes. Would you please put it in the chat window?
Will do.
Thank you. And Captain Jim, you've got the last word on this.
Just a quick thing. How often are you getting your blood work done to check for things like low potassium? And when I had that, I was tired. I attempted to exercise. It didn't help. And I was way low. So I'm just curious. I get it done every month. So
I just had my blood done for an appointment I've got with my hematology oncologist on Friday.
okay.
Thanks.
That's it.
Okay. Is Dan still with us?
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
God bless you for hanging in. You get extra marks for hanging in.
No,
What's on your mind?
We're gonna pass till next week, so it's.
Oh, you're gonna pass till next week. Okay. All right. So, guys, we'll be back here a week from tomorrow, and we will. Let's see. We've got Men Speaking Freely coming up on Thursday, so don't forget that one, and a bunch of other good stuff. And sorry to keep you, but we had a lot of people that wanted time today, and a bunch of new men. So, and if you missed anything and you want to hear it again, check the recording. So that's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Good night, and see you next
everyone.
week.
Thank you, Rick.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Great night.
Thanks, Rick.
Great night.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.